The end of ARK. It's been a long time coming, huh?
But let's start off with ARK Survival Ascended itself and the optics surrounding this game, and this is still a major issue for why this game is teetering on the brink of disaster. Now, I'm not going to go through it all again, line by line, for the millionth time, but when you tease a game as a free graphical upgrade for current Survival Evolved owners, and then you take that away and you turn it into a series of purchases with ARK 2, with
Yeah, that does not sound good now, does it? And, in my opinion, this situation is completely deserved, honestly.
out ARK 2, just Survival Ascended, the base game, then over to the full Ascended experience as a standalone option, while also, lest we forget, shuttering all support and the official network for Survival Evolved. Well, let's just say that you aren't off to a good start. Throw in the fact that Ascended only launched with the island in the map rotation, and still, by the way, will remain only the island, now for even longer, as last night Wildcard did kind of what we all expected would happen and delayed the launch of the center, citing their partners who are working on that remaster and how it was not ready for release, giving no ETA.
Yeah, this game just has problem after problem, controversy after controversy, nickel and diming so hard that Bungie is looking in their direction and saying, "That's our boys right there. They're doing God's work right there." Yeah, it's not good.
For a possible launch, and yeah, you've got a game in Ascended touted as the evergreen ARK experience, still, by the way, in early access status, and still with only one map in the entire rotation. That's a terrible look for Studio Wildcard and Survival Ascended, when the game they decided to move on from, Evolved, functions better, has many times more playable content, and consistently shows higher player counts than their latest release, Survival Ascended, leading many to label Ascended as nothing more than a straight cash grab, a crowdfunding effort, although not labeled as one.
I mean, currently it is, and, well, I really doubt that there's anything you can say to convince people otherwise, considering looking at how much the new game has and how much the old has. It's just like, yeah, this is just give us money, and maybe at some point there's gonna kind of be a product here, but it's an Overwatch 2 kind of situation, but much worse, honestly.
So that enough money could be accumulated to fund ARK 2 development, the future of which is still very much up for debate. I also have to mention the terrible technical state of Survival Ascended, again with just one map. It has major issues, still plaguing console players with a save game issue that has been around since 2023.
Hey, console players get what console players get. It is what it is.
Personally can't remember the last time I even saw a console update, but again, it feels like December, and for PC players, Ascended requires the best components money can buy if you want to play it on anything other than low settings, with no guarantee it will be a stable playing experience. It was claimed that Ascended was built on a completely new and fresh codebase, yet all the same bugs, all the same gremlins and exploits from Survival Evolved still exist in this new offering, making the claims of a new framework from the ground up a bogus argument. From the very
Well, it's a blatant lie, first of all, and that just adds fuel to the fire. Like, come on, let's be real. You make a game claim it's completely new, guys. Give us time, and the same issues are there. Really? Really? Are you gonna call that new? I mean, I hope it's a lie, because if you actually did it from the ground up and it's still as buggy as a mess that the previous was, then wow, that is even worse.
very second ASA was teased and then taken away, turning it instead to a paid upgrade, Ascended has had an issue with optics, and I don't see that changing anytime soon, if ever. So you've got an optics issue at number one, and by the way, that's a major issue there, and it's going to be much the
True.
same with issue number two, which is ARK's lack of innovation coupled with strong survival game competition. Now, the lack of innovation aspect is self-explanatory, and it's okay for Survival Evolved. I mean, that's an 8-year-old game, but Ascended doesn't get that same free pass. It is the same game. It's the same core mechanics, it's the same everything, just with remastered environments now in Unreal Engine 5, along with quality of life mods from Evolved now baked into the game. Nothing has changed. I mean, nothing has evolved. No pun intended there. And so you've got two identically themed ARK games now on the market. One is the complete experience.
It's not exactly the first time. And the reason people are pissed about this is really easy. Because people don't really care about, oh, is there something new? Is there not something new? Or any of that garbage in reality, okay? No one would have been mad about the 50th release of Assassin's Creed if the game was good, okay? No one, absolutely no one would be even remotely mad about that. But people are. Why? Because the game's just bad now. When the second Assassin's Creed released, it was fine. When the third Assassin's Creed released, it was also fine because the game was still good. But after all these years, nothing has changed and the game quality has gone to, well, absolute waste. People are now mad that there's no innovation. People are completely okay with absolutely accepting zero innovation in a game as long as the game is good. I mean, look at Palworld. That game literally innovated complete zero. Negative, in fact, probably. You know, there's not a single unique mechanic except a couple of bugs there, and that's it. And people love it. Why? Because you don't exactly need to innovate to actually make a good game. That's the secret right there.
The other is a slightly better looking version, but entirely incomplete and stuck in what feels like development hell. And, you know, players saw right through that smoke. They see Ascended for what it is, and they choose to stick with Evolved. The bigger subtopic of this number 2 talking point is the current competition for ARK, and this is an aspect you can't ignore. As Ascended continues to kind of stumble around in the dark, only one map, delays, technical issues, etc., the survival game market is offering up some juicy alternatives to ARK, and it is pulling away players in droves. You've got Palworld, Enshrouded, and Nightingale, which are all new and tearing it up in their own respects. Once human
Nightingale in its current state, I don't think will be too much of an issue because the game has a lot of potential, unironically, because, you know, everything has potential if you completely remake. Even Starfield has potential if you completely remake that garbage. But Nightingale has actual potential, but their problem is, well, very simple, honestly. They need a lot of work. They need to sharpen the things that they have, and then it's probably going to be a success, in my honest opinion. But until that point,
Human put on a great
And then Shrouded looks honestly great, so there you go.
beta and stands poised to hit the market running. Hell, even Helldivers 2 is lighting it up like a pinball machine for player counts, and I know that isn't a traditional survival game, and by the way, I'm air quoting
Good
here,
enough.
but it's a great game. And in the end, players want to play great games. And by the way, it doesn't get any easier for ARK, as you also have the likes of Stalker 2 and Frostpunk 2 dropping later in 2024, all promising to scratch that survival
Frostpunk 2? Oh, that's that game with the generator in the middle. Oh, that's cool.
itch. The number 3 issue comes down to Studio Wildcard and their inability to communicate effectively. And this starts at the top, so upper level management, including Snail Games. Now, some viewers out there might ask, what does a studio and publisher not communicating or communicating poorly have to do with a game dying? To which I would answer,
I feel that's the most obvious thing ever. Yeah. Imagine, oh, this game is bad. I love it, but I want to play it, but it doesn't look like it's getting better. And then the developers say nothing. Yeah, that's a lot worse than developers saying, we're hopeful, guys. Let's keep doing this.
a whole hell of a lot. Wildcard frequently does not answer pressing community questions or even handle concerns. Instead, they consistently only make...
He has an axe in his inventory, by the way. I just want to point it out. He clearly has an axe there.
statements at the very last minute, and even then provide little details, often staying as vague as possible. For weeks, players were asking why the Shastasaurus was not to be the community-voted creature to be included on the center map. And for weeks, that question just went unanswered. Instead, the Gigantoraptor took its place for that map, and now even that map has been delayed. So it's just a new creature that will instead be added into the island map. Now, here's the thing. Nobody
That's great stuff right there.
believes that Wildcard didn't know the poor technical state of the center before this week's crunch. So why sit on that delay announcement for so long? Each and every time Wildcard does something like this, it further chips away at player confidence, which I believe, if we polled the ARK player base right now, is definitely at its all-time low.
Yeah. I mean, there is this concept of goodwill that a developer can have, that a game can have, but at some point, if the game is going poorly constantly over and over again, people are just gonna leave because they will be tired of it. No one wants to feel disrespected constantly, and no one wants to be disappointed constantly about the game that they are playing and they are currently enjoying. That is a big thing. That actually makes a lot of people leave games. It's not uncommon for people to leave because of this.
You could even lump Snail Games into this discussion because staying vague, even deceptive, is also their MO. Just recently, they were slapped with a compliance letter from the SEC telling them that they needed to clarify how they were recording debts and payments, which, if you're a publicly traded company, is not the kind of letter you want to be receiving.
That's good, though. I had no idea that happened. Nice.
Anyways, back to Wildcard, and sensing that they were about to get a monster level of pushback, they tried to smooth over the situation, but in true Wildcard fashion, added even more fuel to the flames. Offering up the Gigantoraptor on the island was a mild offense. I mean, you never want to use a hot topic as a reward item, and this creature and what is tied to it is a hot topic. But it is...
I mean, it's really bad. Because think about what it says to the player base. Usually it is actually a viable tactic to just, essentially bribe the player base by giving them some kind of release of something that they really, really want, because that does quell the flames for a while. But when you're releasing something that was supposed to be a part of this bigger thing, that does not bode confidence at all. That completely does not bode confidence at all.
Easily overshadowed now by what they published about the Oasisaur, that pay-to-play dino included in this first adventure pack, because it is now showing as having the ability to res dead dinos, further strengthening the argument that these DLC packs are nothing more than pay-to-win.
Hey, that's the world we live in, boys. And if a game goes like that, I hope it dies.
Number 4 has to be the split ARK player base, and it doesn't take a genius to have seen this one coming a million miles away. The fact that Evolved, being run by unofficial server host, is outplaying the officially supported studio-run Ascended says volumes for how this game is being received. I know that many players have never bought into the statement that Evolved files could not be brought over to Ascended, and therefore you had to start new and fresh with ASA.
Of course you can do that. If the game's gonna be good, guess what the player base is gonna do? They're gonna migrate to it, they're gonna go to it. But it's kind of obvious when you release a sequel to a game and it's literally blatantly worse than the last one, that people are just not gonna move. Like, why would they? Even if the old game gets no more updates anymore, if there is enough things to do in that game, they're just gonna probably wait out until the new game gets enough stuff in it. But the problem is with, the snail's pace that everything is currently going on with ARK, that seems like years away, honestly, at this point, as far as I can tell. So people are getting just pissed, and people don't want to move. Now, the worst thing that obviously they could actually do is kind of like intentionally hinder and stunt the old game by, I don't know, maybe removing something breaks and they don't fix it. Now, that would be probably, in my opinion, the final nail in the coffin, because that would just piss people off too much to be saved.
But But the fact that the 8-year-old version, run by the community and no longer receiving official studio support, is outnumbering the latest and greatest ARK experience says everything you need to know for how Ascended is looking and why I feel it is on life support, if not dead. Go ahead and argue that point about how when the new maps drop, everything is going to return to normal. And yeah, maybe if this was 2015 and ARK had just launched, that statement could hold water. But even if Wildcard came out tomorrow and said, hey guys, every map will release in the next week, all the way up through Gen 2, even then, I still don't think we would see Ascended player counts spike back up to what Evolve did in the past. ARK will continue to die as long as it maintains a split player base. And believe me, I'm not advocating one way or another. I'm just stating fact.
The split player base in general is not going to kill it, but the split player base, again, is just absolute show what is happening with the new version of the game and how bad it is that people don't want to move. It is a very telling factor at the end of the day. You cannot deny that.
And finally, number 5 item, Snail Game.
Also, by the way, that is horrible. That is absolutely horrible for new players, because imagine you want to play ARK, you start playing the new one, you go there, and it's like, this game is not that good. And then someone tells you, oh yeah, this game is shit, you should play the old one. The old one? What do you mean? I just bought this one, I just spent money on this. I'm not gonna buy the good version that's the old one. What the hell is this? Leaves and never come back. That's what a lot of people do. This is why first impressions matter a lot in literally everything and anything, especially in gaming. Like I can tell if I'm gonna like a game in the first 20 minutes of playing it, typically. And I'm not alone. A lot of people can do that. No problems whatsoever. And they're very rarely wrong, because you know what? We know what we like and we know what we dislike. Now, obviously you can be wrong, and a lot of people take more time than that and give more shots to a game, but still, it doesn't take a long time to figure for people to figure out, is a game actually worth playing or not. And well, if the new ARK that people are supposed to buy and play, people do log in and it's bad, it's like, oof, that's not gonna be good enough.
Games, Wildcard, and the all-important dollar. Modern game development takes money, although Pocket Pair and Arrowhead have shown us that AAA gaming budgets are not needed to publish explosive new releases, but still, without money, the developers and staff are not paid, and then the content is not published. Snail Games has shown us time and time again that they cannot be trusted with any ARK dollars that are earned. I could cite the failed electric car company venture fiasco that was brilliantly covered by Nooblitz. HOD has done some amazing work here as well, and I've also tried to contribute on this front with some deep dives into their financials. But the point is, Snail is bad with money, and they control the purse strings for ARK.
Yeah, I have heard this.
ARK 2, ARK Ascended, and yes, Studio Wildcard. When your publisher is burning through wads of cash that was earned almost exclusively from ARK sales, it's not a good sign as to the future of that game. Now, I rarely speak of other ARK content creators, largely because I just don't watch much YouTube, and partially because of the frosty, let's call it that today, frosty reception I received.
You know what always bugged me about ARK, why I never really played it, is this. You see this? It's the fact that, man, there's so little animation when you're moving around and doing things like that, and I dislike that a lot. Like, birds typically have like one animation, how they fly, and calling it a day, and I really, really dislike that. So that's a huge thing why, for example, I can't play ARK. Now, I am a minority when it comes to this, but
received when covering ARK, but one video that I did happen upon was XFibo's latest ARK video about how ARK was dying, and for the most part, I largely agree with his points, except for one. He speaks about microtransactions and how if they are installed into the game, which I've already said based on the evidence that they will be, that these MTXs and the income received from these transactions could then be reinvested back into ARK development, such as cheater enforcement and other needed areas of concern. This is wrong. Not Xfibbo's thoughts on it all, but what would happen with any money earned from this system. ARK is Snail's cash cow, and based on...
Oh, yeah, then I agree. I was going to say, well, that's not wrong. People obviously invest money that they make into furthering things that they do. But yeah, I guess that's it. It is a sad day to be an ARK fan anyway. Lieutenant Buzz Lightyear, 10 out of 10. This was